Hello, everybody. Welcome to week 3. Can you believe it? Starting week 3. My voice is better, so that's good. You're going to hear a lot better feedback in these assignments that I'm still grading the week 2 ones. I'm sorry, I usually like to have them done by now, but I kind of graded until my voice completely gave and then stopped and then started again when my voice came back, and then my voice completely went and then I had to stop again. So, but everything will be done tonight for you guys. But it's a good reminder for those who have yet to do so. Remember that late submissions are due tonight, so be certain to get those late submissions and to get some of those points. They are due tonight, so get those in. And then we also have our week 3 assignment that we will be going over, and that's going to be due always on Tuesday. So, but to go over week 2, how did everybody feel about it? Did you guys realize how much paperwork and how much it could potentially cost you to actually run a business, especially that liquor license?
I was shocked that I got 100% on the first try because I'm much better at getting around the law than following it. So I just knew I was going to have to resubmit like 5 times.
Yeah, you did a great job, Greg.
I'll back him up on that one. He goes against the law a lot.
Well, but were you surprised at how much, say, like your liquor license was to find for that? Were you guys surprised by that?
The actual liquor license wasn't that hard. You can get a temporary or you can get a permanent. It just depends on how much you want to spend. Whether you're a food truck or an established restaurant is where you had to make your differential at.
Yeah. And then how many people are here that are from Texas? Because I had quite a few from Texas. Yeah. Were you surprised that it costs like that $6,602? Yeah. Hi, Sandra. Were you guys surprised by that amount? Did you think it was going to be that much? And then, who was it from Idaho? Idaho is crazy. It was like, who was that who did Idaho? Who's from Idaho? Man, it was like 200 grand for.
Yeah, I think that was me.
Yeah, that was intense.
Yeah.
for your liquor license. It was like, man, that is a lot of money for a liquor license. I would be like, no liquor.
Like in Massachusetts, it was like $245,000 to $450,000 to get the license to start it.
Yeah, isn't it crazy? It's a lot of money, and that's where, that's why it's good to know where this information is now, so that you will have it for later on, and then you can really decide, does my concept need like liquor, or should I go without it, or does it, it kind of helps you hone in what you really can expect for, especially for those financials. So, and then how many people were surprised by stuff like their labor laws and whatnot? Yeah, Heather?
I've been going through the same thing you had this week, so.
Oh, no.
Anyway, yeah, my son just turned 15 in November, and things have changed since I was his age. So I was like, hey, he can get a job. I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, and I mean, that's another reason why I always loved using Bob's Burgers as an example, because not only do they have a great product, but they have a great product. He's not making any money, and he has all of his kids working there. Is it really legal for him to have a 9-year-old working in a restaurant? Those are things, like, well, I always go back to that show because it has great examples of what is actually allowed and not allowed in real life.
Well, let me share this if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
I have 2 sons. My oldest now is like 21, but he when he was 13, he decided he was going to help his dad's business. Well, his dad's an electrician. The North Carolina Department of Labor didn't see it his way. They were fined very heftily and told that the boys could work in the shop, but they could not be on the job sites. So I hated to cause trouble for my ex, but I had to see my 13-year-old for the summer.
Yeah, well, and that is
So, true
something that
story.
you have to like look into, right? Because yeah, it's totally different now. I mean, God, when I was growing up, I'd go with my dad everywhere, and he was a master plumber, so we would go to all sorts of construction sites and jobs and stuff now. But that was, back in the 80s, and now, it's all different now, right? So
Yeah, North Carolina, there's some restaurants you got to be 21 before you can operate any kitchen equipment.
yeah,
You got to be 18 to work in the kitchen, but 21 to work certain equipment. And that puts a damper on some people that are hiring at 18, 19 years old.
yeah, exactly, right? And then I saw that, Rebecca, yeah, you didn't know about the fire department charges, the $90 a year. And then Heather, remember, yes, you do have time to resubmit. So don't worry about for week 2. You guys have, you have until next Tuesday to resubmit and get those changes in and get it right. If you guys have questions, please contact me and then we can go through it together. Because sometimes, it just takes that second person to kind of help look and then be able to look at it at a different perspective and be able to find it for you. So, and to help find it and that kind of thing. So please just, come on, reach out. I am officially done with my master's program. So all my time can be spent purely on you guys now, which I'm really excited about. So, and then we get to go into this week is labor. And I like how, thank you very much, Sandra. Thank you, Lisa. And I like how each week, you kind of go through in order, right? You found out you did your SWOT analysis to kind of get that concept honed in, to figure out your demographic, to get your business plan up and going. We did your, this past week, we looked up all the different laws and regulations so you could get an idea. And now you have a good guideline for what those laws and regulations are. So we can actually put that information to use and help you with your labor. Because you want to make certain that you actually get your establishment to be running smoothly. You have customers that have expectations, and you want those expectations met. So how much labor does that actually involve, right? So, and it's once again all about that research. I absolutely love research. Research is the way to go. And I love this dinosaur picture, so I wanted to throw that back in there. And I knew that William liked it too. But remember, we talked about all those different laws, and then, and then you really can see what was required. Because, the federal has that standard that you have to go off of, and then did your state decide that that was good enough, or did they raise it? Did they make it be more? Did they change it a little bit? So that's why it's always important to see what each part is, because it's going to help you decide how much labor you're really going to need and how much that's going to cost you. And it'll help you be able to answer all those fun questions, like, can you pool your tips? What is, like, for the salaried employees, can you actually do overtime for them? All that fun stuff, right? Because you guys remember what my law was for overtime in Colorado?
No.
You guys remember? It was that people under 50 who are on salary, who make 55,000 and under, around that amount, you have to pay them overtime, and that's going to affect you, but your state may be different, right? It may have different laws. You may not have that salary law. So that's why it's good to know that kind of stuff ahead of time. And I really want to make certain that you guys have it down too, because oftentimes, especially for small businesses, you get a lot of people who just react and they're not proactive. Like you guys doing your SWOT analysis, you're being proactive. You're figuring out those, you know, your strengths, those weaknesses and opportunities and threats, and you're creating plans for them, right? And a lot of people don't have that type of plan, and that's why it's so important that you guys get that down so that you can be prepared to be able to react to what or be proactive to whatever may happen, because minimum wage always goes up, right? You can be proactive about seasonality. If you know that, like, say I'm in the mountains in a ski town, I know I'm going to be busier during the winter time than I am in the summertime. So I'm going to need more labor, and I'm going to have to, in the winter time, so I'm going to have to start hiring sooner rather than later, right? Before the actual season starts. You don't want to start hiring in the middle of, you know, December, because that's already ski season's happening. Yes, Timothy. What is your question?
Yes,
What is your question?
I don't really know if it has something to do with the current class, but I was going to ask you about that overtime with salaried employees. How does that work? Because you really don't know what your salary is until the end of the year. And does bonuses include your salary? So they could just give you a $1,000 bonus and push you over that 55,000 mark.
Well, bonuses do not count as your salary. So you don't have to worry about that. That's just a bonus. That's so that's not going to put you over. But you will, if you know, you do have to keep track of how many hours you're spending. And if you're spending, like in Colorado, say you're working 80 hours and you're on shift, like, you know, on the schedule, and you're working 80 hours a week, you need to be paid time and a half for those extra hours. But that's in Colorado. Where are you located? Where are you located, Timothy?
I'm located in Alabama. I'm wanting my concept maybe in Houston, but overall, what I was getting at is until the end of the year when they get their W-2 and it's like we made 51.4 for the year. How do we keep track of that overtime? Because do they pay you back if you've paid them overtime throughout the year and they made more than $55,000?
Well, technically, if you're on salary, once you get that job, they say you're going to be on salary. You're going to be making, say, like $50,000 a year. You get that, you know, your letter. You get that like contract that you guys agree to that shows that you're at $50,000 a year, and that's how much is taken out. But if, say, you are on the schedule and you, because some places are a little different than others. Some employees who are salary still have to clock in. Other ones don't. But say if you still had to clock in and use you know, there's a variety of different scheduling systems that we will go over. But if you notice that week that you are over, then they have to pay you for that extra overtime. So if I worked at catering and I ended up working like 50 hours, they have to pay me that extra 10 hours in overtime. And that would show up on that time schedule, and it'll show up on your schedule and on your timesheet and whatnot. So when you are salary, and if they say you are salary, then that means that you get a certain amount every single like week or bi-weekly or monthly or however they pay you. If you're hourly, then you know that your hourly rate will be that, like, say $22 an hour or $15 an hour, but your hours can range, right? Because you could work 30 hours one week and then 40 hours the next week. And that change in your hours are always going to show on your paycheck, as opposed to when you're salary, it's always consistent. But for Colorado, if you go over, you have to pay. Does that make sense, Timothy?
Yes, thanks.
Okay. Kathy?
Yes, in the state of Massachusetts, is anything over 40 hours is time and a half. And if it gets up to, I think, 50 hours, it's like double time.
Is it? Yeah, I don't know. I haven't lived in Massachusetts for a while. I'd have to ask my parents. But that is something that you can always look in those delightful websites, right? And you can find it in that awesome, boom. Let me pull this bad boy up for you guys. It's in that link that I gave you here. You can find it right here. And it goes over all the Fair Labor Acts and all that fun info here. So you can find it at the Department of Labor as well for you guys. So, but it's just good to know, so that way you can be prepared, because, you know, we talk about that 30, 30, 30, 10 rule, right? You guys remember that 30, 30, 30, 10 rule?
Yeah.
What is it?
Okay.
30% labor, 10%
30%.
profit, 30% food costs.
Yeah.
30% other.
30% labor, 30% food costs, 30% other costs, and 10% profit.
Yes, correct. So, and that's the basic one that we like to use for here. So you guys have a guideline, but obviously for places that, you know, like say a fast food joint that it doesn't, you know, they're not cooking from scratch. Obviously their food costs are going to be, that percentage is going to be a little bit higher because they're buying stuff that's pre-made, but their labor costs will be lower because it takes like 2 minutes to actually make those meals, right?
Yeah.
Versus a kitchen that will actually make everything from scratch will have a lower food cost, but a higher labor cost, because you're taking that time. You're going to be making everything from scratch, so it takes time. So that's where we give you that guideline to go off of. So it's just a good base, and then depending on your concept, you can adjust it accordingly, right? Because realistically, how much profit do you guys typically make for a restaurant? You guys know? It is usually between 3 to 5% profit for an average restaurant. 10% is awesome and you're doing great, but it is that typical 3 to 5% for a restaurant. But I'm sorry, what, Rebecca?
We actually went through that in another class and I forgot.
Oh, well, that's good. I'm glad. It's a refresher, right? Patricia, what is your question?
Okay, so you go over the 30, 30, 30, 10 one more time. What are each one again?
The 30% is your food cost, right? 30% is your labor.
Okay.
30% is that other. So like your rent, you know, buying linens, your water bills, your electricity, Wi-Fi, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then 10% is profit. Bill, I like your little analogy there. Flop. That is quite good. That is quite clever. I like that. So very nicely done, Bill. Very nicely done. So, so then if we go let's look at some of the different things for your actual, what your restaurant needs or your concept. Now, every concept's different, but remember, if you think you're a food truck and you're like, well, I'm just a food truck, I just need to, I'm the only one, you have to guess again, because you are not allowed to actually handle money. If you're cooking, you can't handle money. So you need one person to be doing the register and taking those orders and stuff, because that is health code, right? So this is that delightful brigade system. Who remembers who created the brigade system?
It's Gaffier.
It's Gaffier, you're right. The place that you're going to school, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have all of these great, and I mean, I love that. Who wouldn't want to say, like, instead of saying fry cook, you say fritier? You're like, I was the fritier at the restaurant instead of fry cook. That sounds so much better, right? I totally use that for my resume. So wherever you decide to go, make it sound fancy. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we have the front of the house. So these are the different positions for for fine dining front of the house. But for those who are not going to do this, have the sommelier or the maitre d', that kind of thing, I gave you this delightful link for you. And it gives you all, provided by National Restaurant Association, and it gives you all the different names of the different front of the house and back of the house, and it gives you all of the cool descriptions for each one. So while you guys are doing your concept and looking at your business, you can see this delightful thing will be able to help you really figure out what you need for your business. Do you need, because you don't have to necessarily have the captain and front waiter, back waiter. You can just, you can just use, expediter and wait staff and waiter and that kind of thing. So just be certain, whoever is on, I'm going to mute you real quick. Just be certain to use that, especially for your assignment. And Lisa, and for those who are wondering, who are watching the live session archive, these slides will be available for you guys. They will be under the live session as always. So this is going to be in that slide. Heather, what is your question?
Hi, I went for an interview for an assistant manager.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of a uncomfortable interview. But I guess I wanted to know, like, if I answered some of the questions right, because she was asking about front of house and back of house, and how exactly the assistant manager would fit in, that kind of thing. And yeah, I had no idea, but I just could do it all.
Well, it's important to know both parts, right? Because as a manager, you need to be able to go seamlessly in between to make certain that everybody's doing their job properly, because the whole part is making certain that everything flows, everything's smooth, everything is done efficiently and consistently every single time. So we can go over it further afterwards too, Heather. So if you want to get together, and we can talk about it later on too after class, and then get you in a better spot. And that goes for anybody who has questions like that.
I just didn't see it on that list. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Well, remember, this is just that guideline of a list, but assistant manager is important because you need that person there who, because you always want to have a manager on staff to make certain that things are running smoothly. So in case something does happen, you have that manager, you have that person of authority who can help and create that solution. Because remember, you don't want service failures. You want to have that service recovery and make it, make it a wow for your customer. You want to wow them with your food. You want to wow them with your customer service. So that's where having that manager there will help. Managers will also help make certain that people aren't getting into the liquor in other places that they shouldn't be getting into, right? Because people enjoy liquor and you want to make certain that you have some.
That's why
And a manager
usually
can
a
make
liquor
sure that
closet
that
that's
happens.
locked up.
I'm sorry, Robert?
That's why usually the liquor closet is locked up and only managers have the keys to it.
Exactly. But that's also why you want to make certain that you have a manager there, because if you have, and this is going to be important for your assignment, because if you have the dishwasher being the last person there, that's you're going to be, and nobody else is there, you're going to be losing quite a bit of stuff potentially. And that's something that you don't want to do. So that's where it's important to have that manager or assistant manager to be able to help lock up, count the money, make sure everything looks good and orderly and, you know, is good to go. So if we go back to, bring you to ta-da. How much staff do you actually think you need? This is important because a lot of times people don't realize how much staff they actually need. And it's good to realize it now, and then you can figure out your budget for it. And these are questions that you want to ask, like, are you planning on serving 200 people, or are you just going to be serving like 50 people? How big is your kitchen? How many people can you actually fit in that kitchen? That's going to be, you know, you may say like, well, I want to have, you know, all of that brigade system in my kitchen, but you have this tiny, tiny thing that can only fit like 3 people, then obviously you're not going to have that giant classic brigade system going on in your kitchen, right? Because you can't fit them. So how big is your kitchen? How big is the whole layout and your location? How many tables and chairs are you having? The hours that you're going to be open? What style of service are you planning? Because, you know, if you're doing fast food style and you're doing counter service, that's going to go a lot faster than, say, you're going to do a, you know, high-end Michelin star rated restaurant that has the like Russian butler service where it's like, you know, Downton Abbey style, where servers come and, you know, give you all of that, like, you know, go around the table and serve you your food and all that kind of stuff. And they make the Caesar salad right like table side, or do the bananas Fosters and flambe and do all that kind of stuff. It really helps you figure out how those type of things in your concept can help you determine how many people you actually need. Yes, Bill.
I'd unmute. All right. In the high school near where I'm going to open up Smoke Trails, they have a culinary arts program. And there's also like a VOTEC that has a culinary arts. I had planned on getting some of those people to come down and, you know, stage, if you will. Should I include them in the in my employees, or that's just free labor I don't have to worry about?
I would say whoever you are, like, because it's free labor is tricky because you can't always rely on that, right? So whoever you can rely on and that you're paying, I would say include them. And
Okay.
then those other people are kind of just a bonus, you know?
All right.
Because it is a little tricky for, especially with like the vocational schools and stuff like that, where,
Well, they have to have so many hours, kind of like us. We have to have so many hours of our externship. And same with the culinary arts. They got to do so many hours in an actual kitchen, restaurant type setting. So,
how many are you planning on having?
I probably wouldn't have no more than 4, but
yeah, because I was gonna say, because my dad worked for a vocational school, and some of the students were great and other ones would definitely flake. So that's where I want to make sure that,
Right.
you know, you have them and they're there and they can help, but you don't fully like rely on them because
Yeah. The ones from the high school just going to come up there and, I mean, they're really not going to be working. They're just going to be watching. I mean, just getting they're going to be my dishwasher, so to speak.
yeah, that's great.
Give them
Well,
the
that's
kid.
good. Yeah.
But,
And then, but then, so like, who was it? Greg, you talked about you're going to serve 50 people and then you're just going to have 3 people and, but you want to see if you can just get away with your wife and yourself. These are things that you need to ask, like, are you going to offer alcoholic beverages? Are you going to have a bar? If you're going to have a bar, you need a bartender. Who's your dishwasher? Who's going to be bussing the tables? Who's going to be that server? Because I definitely have seen the family style Bob's Burgers, but you always notice for that show, they're either dead or if they're in a rush, it's really hectic, right? It's not smooth at all. So that's where you want to make certain that you have enough people in there so that your operation runs smoothly. You don't want your customers going like this the whole time looking for their wait staff, right? So that's why you want to make certain that you account for all that stuff. And then other things that you want to consider, especially for those, how many people are doing catering or food trucks? How many caterers and food trucks do I have? I know there's a few, right?
Yes.
Remember, I love catering. I've done catering for years. And it's going to be kind of the same thing with your food truck. Remember, you have to go to that commissary kitchen for people with food truck. You got to go to that commissary kitchen. It's going to be the same thing for personal chefs too. Archie, that you have that kitchen you got to go to first. You got to prep the food and partially make it or whatever you're going to do to it. You have to drive to that location. You have to set up. You have to like cook the food or do whatever you're doing there. You have to work the actual event. You have to clean up. You have to load up your vehicle and you have to drive it all the way back. You have to unload. For those with a food truck, you have to clean your food truck completely. And then you have to unload. You have to clean all those dishes. You have to clean the kitchen afterwards. And you have to start all over again. So there's a lot of time in there that you have to account for, especially for like caterings and depending on, and you know, personal chefs and all that stuff, because you have to clean when you're done. You always gotta clean, right? If you're sitting, or standing, you could be cleaning, right? And I mean, there'd be times when we'd go up in the mountains, and because, you know, everybody wanted to have their wedding and it was beautiful in the mountains and like in the middle of like the park, and there is nothing around, and it took like 2.5 hours to get up there, and you have to set up the entire area because it's just a field when you get there. So you have to set up the whole thing. You got to set up all your grills. You got to set up your stations, all that kind of stuff. That takes a lot of time. And be careful, Archie, because you can get volunteers, but they may not be as reliable, right? So, because volunteers can flake because they're like, oh, well, I was just volunteering. I don't really have to go do it. So you do have to be careful with that kind of stuff because you don't want to fully rely on volunteers for that. But you do have to be careful and be prepared for all of that stuff. Because what happens if you're doing that catering and it's just you and you're in the mountains, but then you forgot something in the kitchen that's 3 hours away? Like, what are you going to do, right? So those are things you have to think about. That's why you have to be proactive, right? instead of being reactive all the time. And those are all those type of hours and man hours and labor that you need to think about and you have to consider when you're actually looking at doing your actual operation, your concept. Another thing you want to consider is, some people are always like, oh, I'm just going to do like 7 a.m. I'm going to have people working 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. And then the next person's going to come in at 3 p.m. and work to like 11. But you don't give them that time in between to actually be able to talk to each other. So there's no pre-staff meeting. There's no like, hey, the reach-in went down. I had to call this guy. You want to be able to overlap a little in your schedule to be able to give that time to make certain that people have that chance to talk, to communicate, to say, hey, I opened up like the bag of basil and it was all bad. Like, just so you know, I already called the rep. He's going to send something over, but to give you that heads up. So you want to give that people that, that time in between. So to be able to talk to each other and to communicate. Are there any questions so far? Heather.
Well, just a quick question. I didn't know if maybe there was some kind of rule of thumb as far as like, if you have so many covers or so many tables, and seating and turn and all that, like a ratio for employees to, guests. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, it does. And it's kind of one of those where it also depends on how many people, like how big of a operation you're going to have.
So if I have 50 table or 50 seats, 50
seats, and then it's that like
two turns, so 108,
Yeah, but then it's that, what style of service are you doing? Are you doing a fast casual? Are you doing a full sit down, like tasting style menu? Are you going to be doing like, just that high end fine dining, like in Julia Roberts' Pretty Woman, where, she's got the little snail fork and all that kind of stuff. Those kind of vary, but I do believe there is a good website for that, Heather, that I will send out, because I think that will help as a guide also. Because I do think that there is a website that now that I'm talking to you about it, that will help give you kind of that range, because they give you different variations for different
escargot.
Yep, the escargot. Yep, those slippery little suckers, am I right?
Yep.
So then, and I wanted to show you guys this as well, because it's important for when you are doing your schedule. You want to think about things, and think about this for when you're doing your actual schedule, like for this assignment this week. Are you going to give people 2 days off in a row? Like, you want to be accommodating, but you also need to remember, you want to be accommodating to your staff, and you want to, give them as much as you can, but you also are running a business. So you need to make certain that you are covered. You don't want to give everybody the day off and it just ending up being you working, right? That wouldn't be good. So that's where you really have to make certain that you think about these type of things, like having just more than one manager, having that assistant manager, and looking at the data to help you forecast your labor. And remember, forecasting, you guys are used to doing forecasting all the time, right? You guys know that? Because the weather forecast, right? You look at the Weather Channel to get that weather forecast. They're forecasting to try to figure out what it's going to be for the next, 3-day, 7-day, 10-day thing. You're kind of doing the same thing with when you're looking at your numbers of your operation. You're forecasting to see how busy you're really going to be so that you can accommodate. If you know you have a boatload of caterings coming up, you're going to have more people on staff. If you know it's going to be a lighter week and that not that much is going on in your town, then you know that you don't need as many people, right? So it's all about being able to just forecast and figure out and then make sure that everything is running smoothly. And I wanted to show you guys this because there are different softwares that you can actually use. So this is one that's called 7 Shifts, and it gives you that information, and it can really help you figure out your labor costs and how you can really save. Oops, wrong one. Ta-da! So I wanted to show these to you guys so you just had, you know, that there are different schedules that you can use, scheduling systems that you can use, and they can be linked to your POS system and can really help you figure out and really help you save on your labor. But of course, for your assignment, we just have a good old spreadsheet, am I right? Good old Excel spreadsheet for your assignment. Yay! Let's look at your assignment. Right? So week 3, do you guys like my little click here arrows to make you, this one's extra fun, right? Because my voice is still shot. So you can hear how I sound like a teenager going through puberty. It's fun. Remember to read all of this great information, especially the one that says, make sure any employee scheduled for more than 40 hours is on your salary if you don't live in a place like Colorado, am I right? Your tipped employee, or I'm sorry, your hourly employees should not go over 40, right? Because that's money, that's a cost. Your salary employees should not go over 60 because remember, you guys need a day off. This happens more times than not, is that owners work all of the time and get burnt out and don't take time off. You need your place to run smoothly without you, and you need that time off. So you need to have all your systems and your policies in place, and you need to make certain you have enough people to work there so you don't have to be there 24/7. Yes, Archie.
So I'm guessing I guess I should just use my imaginary restaurant idea, because right now for the past 4 or 5 years I've been a personal chef. So it's kind of difficult to do what you're saying because I don't have any employees and I never will at that, you know, doing what I'm doing, getting hired to go to somebody's backyard or to do, you know, an event for 400 people or 300 people. If I have something set up, like I have an event set up for May 18th for 150 veterans, I would just, you know, plan and get help around that event. I wouldn't have anybody on a pay schedule on a daily basis, especially for what I'm doing. So I don't know how to, you know what I mean, do what you want me to do without just saying, okay, well, I have this dream restaurant that I've already did the schematic for, just use that and kind of go off of that.
Well, I would actually say, Archie, to go for, you don't have to do it for that dream restaurant. You could do it still for the personal chef, but then get that average. Like, what does it look like for that week of you working like that? How many like catering events that you have that are 400? Do you have one on Saturday? Do you have one on Friday? Do you have it like all weekend? Do you just do one? Like, what if you did expand? What if you made it bigger where it wasn't just you? It was, you had a multitude of other people coming and doing that personal chef. Like, how big do you want it to be? So I would actually do it more for like planning in the future, and then use what you did, say like that 400 as that guide. How many people did you get to help you? How beneficial would it have been if you had more, or if you had less, or if you like had those systems in place? Would it go a lot smoother if you had more people who knew the job and were actually able to do it without you having to micromanage all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So think about those type of things, and we can talk about it more later on too, after the live session and get a better feel. But don't like, if you have that vision and you have your concept that you want to do, like go with that concept, and we'll just, we'll plan it out for like, 5 years from now kind of thing, we'll make it so that you have a good guide for that type of thing.
Okay, I would definitely like to talk to you after class or whenever.
Yeah, we totally need to. And that goes for everybody who is not in live session right now and are watching the live session archive. Please do contact me. We can go through it and figure it out and get you on a good plan, because that is the whole point of me, is making certain that you guys have the information and you know it. And if you do have questions, just to contact me and we can go over it together. Because I really want to make certain that you guys succeed. I really, like, this is one of the reasons why I went for my master's, is so that I have more tools and resources to use to help you. So be certain to take advantage.
And it would make me feel a heck of a lot better if I could just tell you exactly, what my vision is, so that you could understand it and then just respond and say, oh, okay, this is what I think. It would make me feel a lot more comfortable, because this is what's going on. I'm trying to do what I'm doing now, and I really don't want to guess on something or go off of something I've made up, because it's not what I really paid for.
Yeah, and I mean, that's why it's important to like just contact me, and those who are not in the live session archive, you got to do the same thing. Just contact me, and then we can go through it together and really just set up a good plan and really have it be realistic, because I don't want it to be just pretend. I want it to be something that is feasible for your future. So please do. And then let me go back to sharing my screen so I can pull up this handy dandy work schedule. So you're gonna make a copy of this bad boy, and this is what you are going to use for your assignment. Hold on, I gotta make it bigger for you. Move that over. So I wanna say one thing also, that you should all email Chef Jonathan and thank him for doing a wonderful job, because he actually worked this schedule and tweaked it and made it so it's really, really easy for you guys. So definitely, for those who have had Chef Jonathan, thank him, because he's the one that actually really worked on it and made it really, really great. So remember, concept summary, that same concept summary that you use for week 1 and that you put in week 2, you're going to put it in here too. Just copy and paste that bad boy right in here. Then you have all of the positions. So remember, put the positions that you need. So like yourself, are you going to be executive chef? Then you put executive chef. And then put the hours. So the thing I did also want to show you that Chef Jonathan did a great job with is that he put this, let's say 11 to 7. You see how, don't worry about that, it just does that. But you see how it did 7.5? He did this fantastic, giant formula for you guys so that you didn't have to. So it automatically takes off that, like, those breaks and that like the lunch shift for you guys. So you just put in, the hours that you're going to have. And then remember, if you are going to do hourly rate versus salary. So if you know that you're going to be that 50,000, like $50,000 a year. Remember, that's $50,000 divided by 52, because there's 52. Don't worry about that. So I know that's how much money I need to put in here, that I'm going to make $961.54 for that weekly rate. And you see how it instantaneously put that up there for you? So you guys don't actually have to worry about these up here. These will already self-generate for you. So you don't have to worry about that for the assignment. So just fill this out. There's quite a few areas for you guys to be able to really hone it in. Use as many or as little as you require for your concept. But just be certain to remember with this that you want to try to be nice and give people, 2 days off in a row. You have to give yourself a day off. You cannot just work 7 days a week. And that goes for managers. They are required to have days off too. And you cannot go over 60 hours for your salary employees, right? Because people need to have lives. I know that this is like your business concept is your thing. And I am one that I will full on tell you that I was always horrible about work-life balance. But you need to have that work-life balance. So you need to make certain that you plan accordingly. So Bill, I saw your hand up first, so I'm going to go to you first.
All right, when you did your employee thing, for the wait staff, you got to pay them, whatever, it is in your particular area for minimum wage if somebody's a tipped employee. That's all we have to worry about?
Yes, correct. For a tipped employee, it's just whatever that is per hour. You don't worry about that cash wage, like the cash wages or anything like that. It's just what you found out for your tipped employee, which is why we made you guys do that in week 2, so that you have that information to put into here. So you know what your minimum wage is for your dishwasher. You know what your minimum wage is for your wait staff. So just put that information in there and everything does it itself.
All right. You also said about a day off. If your restaurant's closed one day, does that count as the day off, or do they still need to have another day off?
It does count as a day off, but you should give people 2 days off.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Chef.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, Robert, you're next.
Okay. I've been in the business for over 30 years. Now I'm looking at that spreadsheet, and you had that first person as an example scheduled for 8 hours, but it only came out to 7.5.
Yep.
Those of us that have been in this business long enough know in the restaurant business, you don't get a lunch break. So shall we schedule them for an extra half hour to make it an 8-hour shift?
You can schedule it, that extra half hour, but do remember that it is by law required to give people breaks. And
I understand that, but that's not how it really works.
I know, but that's the law. So just because what it does, because I am one that I always enjoy just working through my lunch break. I've always been that type of person. But remember, if you want to have a lawful workplace, you got to make certain that you account for all this type of stuff. So you have to do it by law.
Okay, I know on an 8-hour shift, you get a 15, 15, and a 30.
Yep.
The 2 15s aren't paid. The 30 is. So that's where I'm trying to figure out, can we schedule them for 8.5 hours, and that counts as their 15, 15?
And actually, it's different. And I saw Elaine shake her head, so I'm gonna have Elaine. Did you want to?
Yeah, it is. The 15s are paid.
Yes.
It is the half-hour lunch that is done because you're off the clock.
Okay, I got it backwards.
Yes, thank you, Elaine. I saw that you shook, and I was like, oh, she already knows. I'm gonna have her answer.
Yeah,
and that really depends on the city as well.
It does, but remember, but it is federal also, those breaks, because 115 is required federal to be paid, and then the other 15, it's really dependent on your state. So, was that you, Timothy, that just said that?
It was.
Okay, perfect. And what was your question, Timothy? Because you were next.
Well, I actually had a couple, and one of them I've forgot about, but the one that I thought about when I raised my hand was when we're filling out this week's schedule, or are we doing it? We're not listing names of employees and how many employees we have. We're just filling out. We need 6 servers this week for these days, and 2 servers this week for these days, and your line cooks and things like that, right?
So then you can put yourself. So I'm going to put like Rachel Rancourt-Hobbs. That is my name. That is who is working. And then I'm going to put Chef Jonathan, because he used to. And then I'm going to do Chef Gregory. Oh, that didn't go down.
But like, say for Sunday, for example, you know, Sundays, a lot of places are slow days after the church rush. So like, you might need 5 people for the Sunday morning lunch, but you only need 2 for Sunday dinner.
Yeah, but then you still have that, your wait staff too, right? So you have to put how many cooks you're going to need. So if you have line cook, you can just put, you know, line cook, saute,
Expo,
prep, yeah, expo, dishwasher, and then server.
but then you would need at least 2 expos because you can't work them 7 days a week.
Correct. So you need 2 dishwashers, right? And remember, this is a good thing that, thank you, Timothy, that I'm glad you brought up, was the fact that people can work part-time. You can get people, you don't have to make it so everybody is at 40 hours. You can make it so that you have part-time help. So don't go crazy trying to figure out a full-time schedule for everybody, because you can have a part-time dishwasher. You can have part-time servers. Heck, half of your servers are probably going to be part-time because they're probably going to school like yourselves, right? So you don't have to make it so everybody is full-time. Just make it so that you can have it and then adjust it accordingly. Because remember, you want to be as you want to help out your staff, but you also need to run a business. So what do you actually need people to do? What other question did you have, Timothy?
When it went back to your servers and your minimum wages, I don't know if it exists everywhere, but in Alabama, they make $2.13 an hour, but at the end of the week, if they haven't made minimum wage, the employer has to make that up. Typically, how they get around that is, so you're going to make your minimum wage, or we're just not going to be working you.
Yeah, and that's something that is typical with like your, you know, when you're doing those the cash tips and making certain that they do make that much money, but you don't have to worry about that for this assignment. So just put that what the tipped employees would be, and we're just going to run with the assumption that they were able to make their money through their tips.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Did you have another question, or you did, Timothy?
I'm good, thanks.
Okay, no problem. And Heather, what is your question?
Just real quick, do we need to research locally, like what the going rate is for, you know?
For what?
For hourly rates and salaries.
You're talking about competitive wages in our area.
So you can, you know, do that, but you know, the whole point of doing that, like the week 2 stuff, was I gave you guys so that you guys could figure out what your minimum wage is. So then you can go from there and then figure out how much do you really want to pay. Now, don't be crazy and say like, well, I'm the owner, I'm going to give myself $100,000 a year. Like, you need to be realistic, you know, with those prices, because if you're going to be making $1 million at your, you know, you put yourself at a wage of $1 million for your restaurant. I want to work at your restaurant. So because that's a lot. So be realistic on it. And that's stuff that you should actually kind of want to know for yourself, so that once you are looking for, say, your externship, you'll be able to you'll be able to, see what the going rate is for your areas for executive chef and, line cook and all that kind of stuff. And since I just brought up externships, I do want to actually put out a reminder that Chef Gina will be here next week answering all of your guys' questions about externship. So she is going to be coming to class next week. Chef Gina, she's in charge of all the externships. So if you have questions about it, she is going to go over all of that information for you guys. And that's next week. Does that sound good?
Everybody know about the class on Friday?
No. What's the class on Friday, Timothy?
It's basically an invitational externship, something for a golf resort. It starts at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, Zoom. I got mine in an email.
Oh, that's good to know. Thank you, Timothy. So that's great, and especially for those who are watching the live session archive. I hope you watch it tonight so you can go to that thing tomorrow. And then Rebecca, what was your question?
I almost forgot. I want to change my store or my food truck hours. Is that going to be fine if I just do that in my...
Yeah, that's fine. Just put it in your concept, and then you'll be fine.
All right, thank you.
So that's totally fine. And then Sonia, what is your question?
For servers, if you're going to pay them minimum wage and tip them out at the night, does it matter? Can I just put minimum wage for my servers, or do I have to put the $2.13 or whatever that is?
Put the whatever the minimum wage for tips employees is in that area.
Okay. So not what I plan on doing, or what the wall states.
If you plan on paying your employee, like your tipped employees more, that's great. You can definitely put what you want to put in there for that. But as long as you have your minimum in there, that's fine. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You don't have to pay minimum wage. If you want to pay more, you can. That's fine. But I just wanted you guys to know what your minimum wage is in your area so that you have that guideline. So for example, if I was like, oh, I'll pay people $10 an hour to work at my establishment, that's not good enough in Colorado because minimum wage is $11.10. Because they want it to be $12 an hour by 2020. So that's why it's important to know that minimum wage, because you would just think, yes, I like your facial expression, Bill. You would think $10 an hour would be fine, but in reality, it's actually not. It's not minimum wage. Minimum wage is $11.10. So that way, then I can know, oh, well, if minimum wage is that much, maybe I'll just pay him $12 an hour. Like, I won't do minimum wage. I'll give them $12 an hour, and then you'll be fine. So it's just knowing that you have that
Option?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Exactly.
That's fine. I could do that because I would never pay a dishwasher minimum wage. You won't keep them.
And that's fine. You can totally do that, but that's why it's important to know. Like Washington State, do you guys know that Washington State tipped employees get $12 an hour? It was like crazy. Found that out doing your guys' assignments. I was like, man, I want to live in Washington State and work as a server. That's awesome. So $12 an hour for tipped employees. That's fantastic. Yeah, I like how some of you guys are shaking your heads and whatnot. So does anybody else have any questions for me? And then Heather, bye. It was good seeing you. So remember, week 3 assignment is due on Tuesday, 11:59 p.m. You guys have your, if you didn't submit for week 2, still submit. If you guys have any questions, contact me because we can go through it together. I really want to make certain that you guys have this info and you have it down. So, and I want it to be so that it's realistic for you guys. So please contact me because we can go through it together. That is what I'm here for. And then Robert, what is your question?
Well, I was wondering because some other people had said in the class about discussing it further, and you said that you were willing to discuss it further. If you didn't have another class, why not do another Zoom session with those people that are interested?
Yeah, we can do another Zoom session if you guys want. Did you want to do something on how about this? I'll put it in the discussion forum, in that places to ask questions discussion forum, and then I'll pose it in there, and then we can come up with a time frame that works for everybody. How about that?
Cool.
Does that work? And then that gives a chance for people to look at the assignment, kind of get it going, get a grasp, and then we can do a bonus live session. Does that work? Thumbs up? Down? Thumbs up? All right, perfect. So I hope everybody has a fabulous week. And spring break for you, Sandra. Yep, it's always around my birthday, that's for sure. So have a fabulous, fabulous week. I will see everybody next week, and then I'm going to pose that in the discussion. For sure, I'll see everybody next week, and then I'll pose it in the discussion when different times when people want to do the live session, do a bonus one, and then we can go through the assignment together further. Okay?
Do we have a spring break for Escoffier?
We do not have spring break, but it is spring forward this Sunday. Another great time to talk about labor, right? Because everybody's always cranky because of.
We did get a Christmas break, kind of.
Yeah, we don't. I did not get a Christmas break or spring break or any type of break for my master's program. So you just keep on going through. And technically for my culinary school, I got like 2 days off for Christmas, and then that was it. And then you just kept on going. So yeah, you guys just keep on going. It's that boom, 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 boom. We want you in and out. We want to make sure that you're good to go. So if you guys have any questions, please reach out. I will be finishing grading for week 2 tonight. So you guys will get those grades, and then remember that you have that time to resubmit. And then I hope everybody has a great, great rest of your week, and have a good weekend, and stay warm.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.